You're listening to Sweet Life, the show that helps you find and walk your own special path. I'm Brooke Peterson. Here on Sweet Life, we like to explore unconventional career possibilities, self-discovery, professional development, and more. Whatever helps and whatever works to make it sweet. Few things strikes trepidation and fear into the hearts of most people like negotiating does. Most of us don't do it all the time. We don't do it every day. I can just... you watch TV or see a movie and you see this cold conference room and people look all stressed out and they're in their suits and looking very, very serious. And they're generally talking about, 50 or $100 million or something. Well, what about us? Picture this. You've just been offered a great new job you wanted very, very badly, or worse, needed very badly. You need it. You got it. Yay, you. Then it comes time to hammer out the details of this great new job. The contract. The contract. Negotiations of this said contract could be in person, over the phone, by email, whatever. Regardless, chances are you'll probably change jobs and therefore negotiate a new job contract 7 to 10 times in your life. Supposedly that's the person's average job number in their lifetime. And assuming you have a contract for each one. So the person you are now dealing with, however, HR, something like that, they could be doing this 7 to 10 times a week. They've got a lot more practice than you. How do you know what to do? How do you know what to say, what to ask for? You're new. You don't want to rock any boats, right, before you even get started, before you even get your company ID. Make no mistake, Human Resources is very well trained in contract negotiation tactics, and their first priority is looking out for the company, which is, completely understandable. They're just doing their job. Sandra Vasher is on the SAB Negotiation Group's lead negotiation trainers and the Director of Program Development at SAB. Sandra's areas of expertise are procurement, sales, and contracts negotiations. Sweet. Her experience spans both the private and government sectors, and she has worked with Fortune 500 clients such as General Electric. She has been a trainer and mediator both with the Harvard Mediation Program and the Center for Conflict Resolution. Sandra is a graduate of Harvard Law School, where she received her negotiation training, and we get to benefit from. Thank you for joining us from Chicago, Sandra Vasher.
Thanks so much for having me, Brooke.
So what is the process? What is, just sort of give everybody a general idea of just the basic, what is the general basic process of a contract negotiation for anyone who hasn't experienced it yet?
So for most people, a contract negotiation is going to mean something like a house, a job, a car. It's not necessarily going to be sort of like a major legal contract like you would have in a sales contract negotiation. Mm-hmm. So for most of the people who maybe are listening, your negotiation is going to start just as soon as you enter the market and start looking for something like a house or a car. And then when you find the right thing that you want, so the right car, the right house, the right job, then you're going to start working with the counterpart on the terms of a deal. So this is things like that salary or benefits or the price of the car.
Okay. And then what happens after you start working on these numbers? Is there a step-by-step process, or is it just sort of like, you just keep talking until you have a number?
So negotiation is definitely a process that should be a proactive process and not a reactive process. And you can kind of control what happens in the negotiation by setting an agenda. So a lot of people do this differently. Some people are going to be more sort of like shoot from the hip types, but we try to teach negotiators to use kind of a more formalized process where they begin their negotiation really getting to know their counterpart, kind of starting to understand what their counterpart's looking for, maybe expressing a little bit of what they're looking for, and then they move on to maybe harder things like talking through the numbers.
Okay. And I know you had said, in our previous discussions, that you said there are 3 different personalities for people who are negotiating. What are those 3 different personalities that you might be dealing with?
Yeah, so one of the things that you want to prepare for when you're, getting ready for a negotiation is for the personality of your counterpart. And your counterpart could be either what we call a commander, a thinker, or a visualizer. you want me to go through all the
Yes,
types?
briefly. Yeah, sure.
Sure. Okay, so the commander is going to be that person who really, really, really cares about winning. So they're like action-oriented. I want to know what you've done in the past. Show me the experience that you have. Give me the proof kind of people. And then you've got your thinkers, and a thinker is going to be the, I need to really think it through, analyze it, see the details kind of person. Okay. So this is why, how, tell me more and more and more. They're that person who just always needs additional information to make a decision. And then there's the visualizer, and the visualizer tends to be the person who literally makes decisions based on what they can see. Mm-hmm. So this is both visual and spatial input, and it means that they might need to literally experience something for themselves or see it for themselves. And then once they really literally see what it is that you're asking them to do, then they're okay with it.
Okay. And so what happens if you have no idea who you're going to be dealing with or have any kind of foresight?
Well, that's a great question. Most of the time you wouldn't, right? So generally speaking, if you're going into a negotiation, especially something like a negotiation with an HR director, you really don't know who the person is going to be ahead of time. So one of the things you can do in your preparation process is think through your arguments from the perspective of all three different kinds of personalities. Mm-hmm. So you might say, let's say you want to ask for a particular salary. Why is it that they should give you this because of, what's happened in the past with candidates like yourself? Mm-hmm. Or if they're a thinker, what's the data? So what does everybody just like you get paid? Or if there's a visualizer, is there something that you can do to present yourself in a particular way that makes you seem more marketable? And you're basically thinking through all of these things ahead of time so that you can come into the negotiation ready to present any kind of personality.
Interesting. And so when you're sitting there, how can you tell, is it pretty clear what type of person is pretty fast?
I think that people tend to change a little bit sometimes and that it's actually kind of difficult. So the biggest tip for negotiators looking to figure out sort of what the personality of their counterpart is to look for what that person is asking them for. Mm. If you get somebody who's asking you a lot of detailed questions, they're probably a thinker. If you get somebody who's maybe talking in terms of pictures or visual images, then maybe they're the visualizer. If they seem really focused on sort of what you've done in the past or what your history is, then they're maybe the commander. So you want to be looking for those cues during the negotiation.
Okay. And you sort of brought up something as far as salary goes. I think for most people, especially if you're sort of new to an industry or market or whatever, it might be a hard thing to really know what your value is, like what your worth is, and how do people find that out? How do they know?
That is a very good question. Part of this is research, and this can be online research into the industry, research with a recruiter, just to find out what are people who are like you, looking at the kind of job that you're trying to get into, getting paid right now. It is definitely true that you aren't always going to know. So that's part of where your power comes from, right? If you can figure that out ahead of time by the research, or if you get into the negotiation and don't know, the more you know, the more power you're going to have.
Okay. So preparing for the negotiation is clearly very important, just to have a sense of power.
Right.
And it does seem like, for instance, this HR example I had in the intro, it does seem kind of like a David and Goliath type of relationship when you go into these kind of negotiations where it seems like they have all the power and you're just like, please give me a job. Hopefully it's not like that, but I imagine very often it can feel that way. So how do you get that power? Where does that power come from?
So power comes from a few things. One of the most important places that power comes from are from your alternatives to a negotiation. So in any negotiation, there are going to be lots of different things that you could maybe do if you don't get a deal. Like if you don't get the job, what are you going to do?
Gotcha.
In the HR example, you might have maybe a couple of job offers. And if you do, then that's power for you. If you have somebody else who's offered you a particular salary, then maybe you can actually use that to ask for an equivalent salary from the person that you really want to work for. Now, if you don't have an alternative, then maybe it is a little more David and Goliath, and your power starts coming from other places. So, in that case where you maybe don't have any other alternatives and they know it, your best tactic might be to accept the job offer, but to look for ways perhaps after you've accepted to talk to the HR director about what is fair in your industry, or maybe to see if you can get to know other people working for your current employer and figure out, what is considered fair, what's a good maybe entry level or salary for whatever position you're trying to get into. Basically dig around a little bit and see if there's some way later on to say, not let's negotiate, but let's play the game called, let's be fair, or can you do me a favor? And see if you can rely on that social relationship to get you the salary that you want. Gotcha. There is also power that comes from how you even sort of sit in a negotiation, though. So, sort of if you're feeling like you're just not confident in a negotiation and what you really want is just sort of not to, like, break or let them have whatever they want, one thing you can do is really practice kind of posing in a more powerful way. So this means literally thinking about like an open body posture or kind of like standing up if you're in a phone interview or, making sure that you're making eye contact, you're not maybe hunched over, don't lean in too much, relax a little bit, because it turns out that when you hold your body in a more powerful way, your hormones actually change. And you begin to feel more powerful because of how your hormones change. So it's like a physiological effect.
Great. And so aside from the monetary, the basic salary, what other things, if you can't get the number you want, are there other things you can ask for to sort of, ease the punch a little bit to sort of get something else out of it?
Yeah. I mean, not everybody always has a ton of alternatives, right? But that doesn't mean you shouldn't ask for things. Right. So,
what's
is there
on the
a particular health care benefit that you want, or vacation time, or sort of anything else that you've had in another job that you think would be really good? Maybe a schedule, right, or the ability to work from home sometimes. I think that for all of that, it's appropriate for you to ask for it. And actually, in negotiation, a lot of times people are really afraid of asking for things. And it's kind of this like, I'm afraid that if I ask for something that you can't give, that you're going to be angry or you're not going to give me things out of spite or something. And that really doesn't happen. So, for the most part, people are pretty responsive to questions, although that's the key to this. So if you want to ask for something in a negotiation that's maybe a little more creative or that's going to give you a little value that's not monetary, you want to make sure that you really do pose it as a question, because people respond in a different way to questions than they do to demands.
Demands, yeah. Hold that thought. We're going to take a very quick break and be right back. We are talking with Sandra Vasher from the SAB Negotiation Group in Chicago. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Sweet Life. This is Brooke Peterson. I am streaming live from the beautiful campus of Pasadena City College, and today we're talking about negotiations. And we are speaking with Sandra Vasher from the SAB Negotiation Group in Chicago. And before our break, we were just talking about asking for things, not demanding them, asking them very nicely and politely, which seems pretty clear. That would be a pretty good move. Now, are there other types of do's and don'ts of negotiations that we should all be aware of?
Yeah, I think there are. So, all right. So let me give you a couple of don'ts first.
Okay.
Don't number one, don't lie in a negotiation. And this is kind of an interesting one, right? Because a lot of people tend to think that in negotiation, somehow lying becomes acceptable. Like you can sort of say that you want more than you actually want, or you have something that you don't have. But in many negotiations, especially that one with your HR director, where you're looking at developing a long-term relationship, you want to make sure that you're not stretching the truth so far that your reputation could be affected. Because, of course, any time you get caught, you lose all credibility, and credibility is everything in negotiation.
Yeah, and just assume you're going to get caught. I mean, Everything
Absolutely.
always comes out. It's always the truth shall rise.
Yeah, but it is true that we have this habit of kind of going, well, that's my final offer in particular. So this is the lie we see most frequently in our negotiators. It goes, I'm going to tell you that my final offer is X, but actually it's a little bit, below that. When you do that, sometimes you actually talk yourself out of a deal. So it might not even be that you get caught. It might be that they, take you at your word and end up walking away because they think that the best you can do isn't good enough for them.
Right. And so you see that all the time. You're right. Gosh, it's so true. Like pretty much my only point of reference is movies and TV. But it is always one of those things where you give them a number higher because there's a negotiation involved and they're going to come down lower. So you've got to start high so that you sort of meet some middle ground, and hopefully that middle ground is the true number that you really need or want. I mean, is that not a good tactic? It seems like it's no.
Well, it's certainly something that we see a lot, right? And it's kind of a haggling strategy.
Right.
It's common. So here's the thing: is there are people who need to feel like they've haggled a little bit. But most of the time, in a long-term relationship where you're negotiating for a job or maybe like a contract with somebody who's selling you something in business, what you want to ask yourself is not so much, can I kind of devise a strategy where I've got this arbitrarily high thing that I ask for, and then I sort of like move down to middle ground. But is there some way for me to ask for something that's really good for me, something that I would really want, but that is also objectively fair? Because if you can ask for something that's really good for you, but that you can also justify in the negotiation, it becomes a lot harder for the other side to feel like you're highballing them or lowballing them. So now you're in a fair negotiation, but you're still trying to get what you want. So it's not like you've kind of just said, I'm just going to compromise everything. You've asked for something good. But your strategy isn't purely based on arbitrary numbers and kind of like the probability that you'll get down to what you wanted. It's based on justified standards. And
so this whole justification thing, I guess, is how does one justify anything other than, basically your education and your past experience? How do you justify things? That seems kind of tricky.
Well, certainly in the job context, it is tricky. So this might be, I've done research on what other people of my education are getting paid in this position, and this is what it is. It might be easier in other contexts. So let's say the car context. So you're buying a car. What's the Kelley Blue Book value? What does the Carfax say, right? What can you find out about what other dealers are selling the same car for? All of those things would be justifications. Or, like, let's say you're buying a home. This could be, what are other homes in the area going for? What are other homes with these particular features going for? Does it make a difference if you move a mile in or a mile out from the downtown area? All of those things can be justifications. So you're really just looking for anything that you can bring in. In the job context, your justification might be, I have another offer from such and such a company. But again, if you don't have that,
right.
Your best choice might be to accept the offer and then later on go back and see if you can renegotiate the salary once they know that you want the job.
Okay. So what other do's and don'ts of a negotiation for us new folk?
Sure. So one thing that you do want to think about is, you shouldn't negotiate against yourself. So this is kind of a do and a don't at the same time. The don't is don't negotiate against yourself. And the do is make sure that you're asking the other side for fairness in what they ask you. So a lot of times what will happen is somebody maybe gives an offer out, and you're expected to respond, right? So this goes something like, I'm willing to sell you that car for $20,000. And what you're expecting is that the other person responds with, okay, well, I want to buy it for 10. But what you don't necessarily want to be doing is, they say 20, you say 10, and then they don't say anything else, so you say 11. Make sure that whenever you raise your price or lower your price, it's for a reason, and that's where this fairness issue comes in. So, when they're asking you to change, you always want to know why. So, understanding that you're looking for respect in the negotiation, you're looking for, a fair negotiation. It's okay to say, help me understand where you're coming from. How can I understand your numbers? Because this is what I think is fair.
Yeah, I like that. Honest communication. And so what happens if you're sitting there with somebody and things just aren't going well? You don't like him, he doesn't like you, whatever it is. It's kind of a roughy, emotional. How do you take the emotion out of it?
Oh, emotion is such a tricky thing in negotiation, right? Man. Because as soon as we get emotional, we get a little less intelligent in our negotiations, and it just makes everything a lot harder. So, so there's a couple things with this. One thing is to have that really prepared plan. So we always recommend that negotiators walk in with an agenda, and ideally you want your agenda to be one that allows you to talk about things other than, say, just the money initially. So, get to know your counterpart, see if you can figure out what they're looking for, and then maybe move on to the part where you've got to fight over the numbers a little bit. So that's one thing. Be really prepared. Don't just shoot from the hip. But another thing is that if you do feel like things are getting emotional, one of your best tactics is to kind of sit back and say to yourself, okay, I'm getting a little emotional. This might mean that they're getting a little emotional too, so maybe what I should do is focus on my listening skills. A lot of people need to be listened to before they can hear you. Mm-hmm. So that means that if you're emotional and they're emotional, your counterpart might not be hearing anything that you say. Mm-hmm. It's a great idea to step back and say, how can I make them feel heard so that they can then listen to me? Of course, the trick to this also is that when you're focused on listening to them, it makes it a little bit harder for you to be emotional yourself. Okay. And then if you get really emotional, you just feel like you hate this person and it's impossible for you to stay calm, you might want to take a break. You don't ever want to be negotiating and feel like you've lost control. So you should take advantage of your ability to say, can we, take a few minutes? Can I call you back in half an hour? Would you mind if I go take this other call? Whatever you need to do to take a little bit of a break and let yourself calm down.
Okay. And so when is it clear that the negotiation is just not going to work, and when do you say no?
So you should say no when you feel like there's nothing the other side can offer you that's better than what you can do on your own. And that's called thinking about your best alternative to a negotiated agreement, and that's kind of a specific lingo term in negotiation. It's called your BATNA. So your best alternative to a negotiated agreement is going to be whatever you're going to do if you can't get this deal. It's the other job, the other house, the other car, taking the bus, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. So, you want to say no when you start thinking, gosh, my best alternative, the thing I'm going to do if I can't get a deal, is actually better than anything that you can give me. If it's not, if they can give you something better than your best alternative, then you should really keep negotiating and see if you can, steal that deal, because potentially there's value on the table for you.
That seems like a very easy and clear way of making that decision. Thank you so much.
But people forget about it. So one of your prep things in negotiation is just defining that point where you walk away, right, and saying, this is where I'm going to say no. Because that in itself is power, right? It gives you the confidence to know when you've got to say no or when you should keep going.
Yeah, and it makes that decision, that moment of decision, so much easier when you sort of have that line already kind of figured out.
Right.
And what are the top reasons that people do say no in negotiations?
So there are a couple of things. A lot of times it's fear. So sometimes we say no to something because we really think that something bad is going to come out of the deal. We're going to lose money. We're going to look bad. Maybe we're not even going to know what we're getting. Sometimes it's insufficient value. So this is, I just don't think that I'm getting what I should be getting, and that can be related to that BATNA question.
Oh, I hate to cut you short. Thank you for joining us today, Sandra Vasher. She is from SAB Negotiation Groups. She is a lead negotiation trainer and the director of program development at SAB in Chicago. My apologies for cutting you off right now, but to learn more about SAB Negotiation Group, go to www.sabonline.com. Thank you so very much. You've been listening to Sweet Life. I'm Brooke Peterson. You can like us on Facebook by searching Sweet Life Radio Show. Until next time, make it sweet.